Comics and Cocktails team activate.
Can't go wrong with whiskey. I had the bullet bourbon out. All right. So, all right, guys. So we just talked about favorite characters and which one had your like favorite sad story. Were there any other characters that prompted a strong emotional reaction in you? Whoever raises their hand gets to go first crack at this one. All right. So it's me. I'm going to go with Alfred sacrificing himself to save Batman. He's hooked up to that tech created by Mr. Freeze, which is keeping him in kind of like a stasis. And Batman shows up all bloodied and dying. By the way, Batman bleeds a lot. When he bleeds in this comic, he bleeds.
I was gonna note that in the art question. Like, anybody takes one punch and immediately there's like head to toe blood. I was like, wow. People have some issues of the anemia or something. I don't know.
Yeah. But basically, somehow Alfred comes out of a coma at the same time that Bruce or Batman goes into a coma and hooks him up to the machine, saves his life, but in the end, sacrifices himself.
And manages to write a perfectly cursive note, like calligraphy.
Yeah, I can't even write that
Like he had some time after he hooked him up. He had some time.
It's funny that you said that because I feel like that's the answer that like you should have. But I feel like that whole dynamic took so much for granted. Like so much was assumed in that situation that I didn't feel any of the emotional connection to it. Like that's supposed to be the thing that's like fueling Batman's mania at the top of the story. It's this huge sacrifice, blah, blah, blah. But like so little time or effort is put into actually establishing what's going on there or really focusing on it that I don't see it as being a big drive for Batman at the top of the thing. And thus the sacrifice at the end was like, of course, okay, sure.
I don't think the comic itself lends itself to giving me that heartbreak or those feelings. It's not really too much in the story. I think it's just my overall knowledge of Alfred and knowing what he brought to the table.
And in his defense, the actual art, the reveal of that moment is beautiful, and that like makes you shed a tear. Just that one shot, just of like Bruce waking up and Alfred in the chair. You're like, oh fuck. Alfred, what did you do?
Why'd you do it, Alfred?
Right. But in terms of the story support, I was like,
and
not to shit on your answer, sorry.
Yeah. And then good. Would somebody have something important?
I just said it was better like when he goes like when he just brings the like Nightwing and Batgirl down. Like that was all I needed. I didn't need the whole.
And it was written in the note too. What I do want to say or mention, also talking about, I mentioned Batman getting bloodied, was when the building fell on him, and they're like, "Are you okay?" And he just like gets in the car and drives away. I felt like that's one of those moments when you were a kid, or when you were kids and somebody else, or you fell off your bike and you were like really hurt, and they were like, "Are you all right?" And you're like, "Can we just ride bike?" Like you didn't want to show everybody you were like really hurt because he was like, "Leave me alone."
Kind of a year one reference.
What's that?
He's trapped in the building. And then he gets out? Or no, is that just me?
What?
Those things happened in both stories, sure, but I don't think it didn't seem like it was a direct.
After I said it, I kind of realized that.
But anybody else want to touch on somebody or some other moment that kind of elicited?
I think I touched on Gordon when he like turns on Batman. So we already went there.
I mean, that was like his number one fan, Gordon, turning on you. Yeah. All right, Justin, you got anything?
I mean, the story. I mean, the points that we did talk about were probably the extent of the emotional kind of output that you'll get from it. But like we said, Sean Gordon Murphy is more of a artist before he is a writer. So I mean, the story to me wasn't that kind of story for me, where it was like an emotional like experience.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes things just felt done to push the story ahead, and it just felt like we gotta keep it moving. Gotta keep it moving.
Yep.
Were there any times that you disagreed with the character's action, and would you have done something differently?
Barbara Gordon.
There you go. You don't even have to say anymore, unless somebody hasn't read it yet.
Change the name of the video to "They Did Barbara Gordon Dirty." That's it.
I feel like we can make like an electronic album out of this. Barbara Gordon.
Barbara Gordon.
Barbara Gordon.
Spats.
I kind of disagree with the Joker cheating to beat Batman. I feel like if you like really
Jack
want to
Napier?
beat somebody, if you really really want to beat somebody, like you want to do it the right way, so you could be like, "I can beat you."
I had the exact same thought. I felt like the setup of the whole, getting the whole crew down to destroy the library and stuff. It was that I agree. Like it was just like if you're going to do it right,
won regardless.
Yeah, it was like it was completely unnecessary.
But again, I'm a Dragon Ball Z fan. Like I want you at your best to beat you at your best. Shout out.
Yeah, and that seems to be his whole shtick. Like if that's actually his ploy, like I'm going to be the best possible person I can. That's just him, and that's I think where that thing gets muddied, I guess, in terms of is it really Jack? Is it the Joker? Like, is there actually a difference between these two people, or is it just a persona?
Well, no, I disagree with you. I think there are a difference. I think like when you said before to push the story ahead, I feel like he just cheated to get Neo Joker to take over to freeze the town. Like I thought that's all that was.
All right. What I'm gonna say is touching on your thing. Joker or Jack didn't need to cheat to win.
Or I wouldn't cheat. I'd want to destroy you so I could look you in the face and be like, I crushed you fair and square.
You want to crush him fair and square. I put down that maybe not cheat just a little bit. So maybe not take over every supervillain, but like 3 or 4 supervillains. Like 2 or 3, easier to control. That was my thing. Cheat less.
It's like, you know what it's like? It's like if we played each other on Madden, but I played on Rookie and you played on all Madden.
Right.
No, because the point is to beat Batman, and Batman knows it. It's like if I want to beat you, I don't want you to be like, you played on Rookie, dude. No, I want to be like, no, I beat you. I want you every day, I want you to look at me and be like, this guy beat me.
It also could have been so much more exciting if Jack was actually able to get all of those villains on his side without needing mind control.
Right.
Like, cause, and we're playing like what if with this now, but like, but if he was able to galvanize that sector of the community in the same sort of way that Duke did in his community, and actually like, not that he's going to turn all these villains good, but if he actually had some rallying cry that actually like somehow weirdly brought good force to Gotham in spite of these incredibly treacherous people being part of it, that could have been really exciting and really interesting, and like really puts the ball in Batman's court to go, what the fuck do you do now? Like all these bad guys are good now, and like you just have to sit on your hands and be like, well, I guess they're just gonna wait until one of them pushes somebody. Like,
very true.
I mean, if there was one person that I was kind of like skeptical about their actions, was probably maybe Nightwing. The fact that he was so easily manipulated to kind of like, all right, I got to go arrest Batman now. And like, he was so easy to turn on his master, his mentor.
Well, he kind of defends him where he says like, we're not taking the mask off.
Listen, he does it. He does his best. But I mean, like at some point, like someone's trying to fucking hunt down your father and you're easily like, all right, let's go get him. I mean,
what if Daddy's wrong?
But you know what? I feel like you would have some sort of bias after all those years to kind of have a little bit of pushback. Like the second I'm talking, dude, it's not like the Joker was like sane for like 3 years, 4 years now. We're like, all right, maybe turn a leaf. Like he was like, he's sane for like 3-4 days, and they're just like, all right, yeah, we have to agree with that guy. He makes a lot of sense now.
I think we get back to that love-hate relationship thing where like he loves Batman, but he hates a lot of stuff about him. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you can have your own personal opinions against someone, but I mean, at the end of the day, they are family. They are that family. So it's like for him to instantly kind of like be like, all right, I'm gung ho with the GCPD and the GTO. Let's go round them up. It was for me. It was kind of it was a little forced. If they could, if they could have kind of worked their way to how he got there, of like where he was convinced, how he was kind of like persuaded to go along with the plan, I would have been a little more okay with it. But for me, it was just it was too easy. It was
I
just
feel like he relies on your knowledge of the bat. Not to cut you off, Justin. I'm sorry. He relies on your knowledge of. There's a ton of animated series references in this.
Oh yeah, of course.
So he's relying on you to understand like the Nightwing, Batman new animated series relationship. So
Yeah,
I knew I felt like I knew where it was. I didn't need to be told because I had that foundation.
Yeah, we don't get an origin story in this universe. We're thrown right into the middle of it.
But the thing is, like, listen, I have tension with family members of my own, but I'm not going to instantly turn around and start hunting them down on a witch hunt. They still are family to me. So even though we might disagree on a lot of things, I will, at the end of the day, I will stick with my family and I'll do whatever I can to protect the people that I love. And for him to kind of immediately just kind of sign up on it and go aboard with it, for me, it wasn't believable.
Well, the thing about the GTO, Justin, I got to push back because the GTO is a good idea.
Of course it is. I mean, Batman needs some sort of accountability. You can't give anybody free reign of power, regardless of what it is.
So that, to me, that was where you knew Jack Napier was for real. He was like, we're going to compromise. We don't get your identity. All you're going to do is we're a body cam, and you're going to share your tech with us.
But what I'm trying to say is that if, like, the Manson family all of a sudden just flipped around and were like, all right, we're going to help society now, would you immediately be like, okay, yeah, now they have good ideas? No, you would kind of be a little skeptical. The joke was a homicidal.
I don't think it's
even a broken clock is right twice a day. Like,
nice Stephen A. Smith quote.
I mean, listen, he's a homicidal maniac. So the fact that people were so easily persuaded to jump on his kind of platform, especially for him to kind of get that momentum to start a campaign as a councilman, for me, it was just a little too ridiculous. Just the whole setting of of where they were going with it was just unfathomable.
Right.
And anybody wouldn't side with a homicidal maniac. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, yeah, knowing the Joker's history, yeah, it's very hard to come to that conclusion that now he's a reformed man and ready to save the society. Sean Gordon Murphy does this in the series. He does say like the only thing they've ever booked him on is robbery. Like there's so I don't know. It kind of feels like the general public.
Even though if you go date back to the original appearance of the Joker, his first act is gassing everybody with laughing gas, and they all die. So I mean, like. But I mean, that's in the original Batman universe. But you know what I'm trying to say. I mean,
yeah,
to have the Joker only labeled as a bank robber or petty theft, I don't see that as.
It takes a lot of suspension of disbelief or something.
Well, it is make believe. It is a comic book.
What?
This isn't a true story.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Right. Ooh. All right. Anybody else want to touch on anything, or we'll move on?
I just really quick. I just wanted to say that I think I really wish that that Neo Joker's big bad plan that occupies the last quarter of the book actually had any sort of emotional attachment to it or stakes to it. I guess her whole shtick is like, I want to do something that the Joker will notice, that'll draw him out. But it's like, okay, so your choice is to get a big fucking freeze gun, like
you mean a Batman and Robin ripoff from the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie? I just realized that right now. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's like it's not like she's like completing something that he always tried to do. It's not like she's doing something that's going to compel him in an emotional way, because she's so much about trying to connect with him in terms of like, this is my lover, this is my soulmate or whatever. And it's like, you just got a big fucking freeze gun. Like, what the fuck does that have to do with anything about your relationship?
Silverstone was this Batgirl inspiration.
Maybe, yes. That's why she's so clueless. But it's just like
That was good. That was good.
I just I just wish that there was something more weighty there. It just felt so arbitrary, and I was like, okay, I guess
Yeah, I
he's
feel like
had a big gun.
you're right. She
Cool.
wasn't needed. You could have made the villains team up, but again, like we're just nitpicking. Like I thought.
Yeah, I think it's just the fact that so much of the last part of the story centers around that. It just feels like a sad misstep.
That was pretty deep. So let's lighten it up a little bit. What is your favorite Batmobile
Oh,
in this series? All right,
Tumbler. It's a tank. It's a tank. Like, that's it.
Nick. Eric?
89. Either that or the animated series. It's a toss-up. I think 89.
They're both pretty cool. Justin?
So I mean, up until I saw the '89 Batmobile, I was like, oh my god. But I like the GTO, the kind of Datsun 280Z
Yeah.
that Haley
yeah.
was driving. Because I mean, I have a personal connection to that car. My mom, that was like her first car, so I grew up kind of like knowing that kind of car.
Right.
So to see it kind of in a comic book transformed into a like Batmobile, it was like so cool. I was like, oh my god!
I got a question since you mentioned that the Datsun. Has that ever been a Batmobile in any other series? Because like there's a scene where that Batmobile is like chasing down was it the Neo Joker? I forget who it's chasing down, but they're like, what do you see? Like, what's behind us? And they're like, Batmobiles. But it's just Datsuns chasing them. And I was like, when has it ever been? What has that ever been a Batmobile?
Yeah, there was a Datsun. It looked like a GTO, and it looked like a Volkswagen, like a
Right.
Jetta.
But
it was
like,
so cool.
maybe the GTO has been a Batmobile at some point. But like all the other cars, I was like, I don't know how you.
It's a Hyundai Sonata.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
It's a Batmobile.
Is he driving
Like,
a Ford Fiesta? Like, what the fuck?
I don't know when that's ever
That
been.
Batmobile gets great gas mileage.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt.
Only on the
but-
highway. Only on the highway. Of which Gotham has none.
It's a company car.
Right.
But yeah, Justin is a wealth of knowledge on the car frontier there. But yeah,
That's
no,
a tank. It's a tank.
I was just like, what? How are those ever Batmobiles? I don't know.
It's a tank.
My
The
biggest
Tumbler
issue,
is the tank.
my biggest issue with the Batmobile thing though is that with the final siege on the thing, Duke rationalizes is like, oh, because they have the big jump that Barbara has to do. He's like, oh, that's why I gave her the tumbler. How the fuck does he know what the tumbler is and what it
Right.
does? He doesn't know from Adam anything. Like,
Right,
suddenly he's like, oh yeah, I know what the tumbler
The
does.
Tumbler is the coolest
He saw Chris Nolan.
Batmobile.
He saw Chris Nolan's Batman. And I was
Honestly,
like, oh,
his By the way, I'm just gonna say his Batmobile that he drew for him, like his own version, that was pretty cool too.
Yeah,
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
yeah. I have to agree with Eric. My favorite was the '89.
89 is that's dude.
89.
That
Brought
is
back
the
such
Batmobile.
memories.
yeah, that's my childhood.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Then I saw the Michael Keaton Batman. I was like, yes, thank you for bringing it back. Yeah, and I think '89. I'm going off the rails here a little bit. That '89 Batman movie. I think that was kind of like the seminal movie, the catalyst. It like showed that a comic book movie could be profitable and fit into the mainstream.
Well,
I
you
know,
also grew up in the '80s, right? So you knew what more than me anyway. You know what New York was like in like the late '80s, early '90s.
oh yeah, I mean, yeah, it kind of has that feel, but
That's where the Frank Miller,
Looks
the media
very much
comes
like a
in.
Tim Burton film.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, what I was gonna say was that's how the media was in Dark Knight Returns, and he's relating the media to your 2010s kid.
well, and I mean, '80s New York was very much graffiti and just the feel of the movie. I mean, Tim Burton, took it to that next level, but a lot of times when you look at the history of New York and you look at the '80s, it kind of feels Tim Burton-esque, like.
Now
Has
we
that
have
feeling.
soy lattes.
Yeah. Well, damn it. All right. Let's discuss. We have not touched on this at all, but Clayface, right? He was used to control the villains, and let's touch on that. Like, was that ingenious? Like using Clayface as like that way to just control the situation for Jack. Anybody got anything to say about that?
My biggest problem with that is that he had everybody ingest him, which means at some point they excreted him. So there's definitely a shelf life on that mind control.
Or they all had different drinks. Like Two-Face had beer. Somebody had a martini.
One of my favorite little nods though is the fact that Two-Face has two different drinks in both hands. Like
That was kind of awesome.
It's a glass of wine in one, and I think like a beer in the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, if we're going just straight up like biology and stuff, like that mind control.
It's like within 24 hours you're done. Like
right. It
You
wouldn't have
can take
lasted that long.
sleep, guys.
I mean, maybe he got absorbed into the cells. I don't know how clay works inside the body. I don't know, but yeah, it was interesting. But if you can like believe that Clayface stays inside of it, I thought it was kind of creative. It's a new take on how to control everybody.
I think when they get to the point of him just being a brain and a set of eyes and tongue in her backpack was sort of where I went, I think I'm done with this device. Like that kind of pulled me out. And I was like, okay. Like,
my initial note on that was gross.
yeah.
That was it.
I think the initial moment when she goes in, she touches Clayface and he just dissolves and that's all that's left of him. That was really interesting and a very arresting moment. But then I was like, wait, she's just carting him around in her backpack.
It reminds me of Star Fox when you fight Andros on Star Fox 64.
Yeah.
And what I want to know is like, so, right, Clayface comes back at some point, giant, like angry clay beat monster with the hammer, and he's chasing him
But I can't help
down.
but hear him in the voice from the animated Harley series now.
Yeah.
Like, you kill me!
Greatest role ever. But like after supposedly Jack Napier bites the bullet at some point in that series, like they don't resolve how they defeat the giant angry Clayface. It's just washed away.
Stuff happens.
You know what? And this goes way back to what Eric said about the third act. It was kind of muddled. He kind of was rushing to get to the end state of what he was trying to do.
It felt very much like he was like, oh shit, guys, I think I have like 3 issues, and they're like, we'll give you 1. He's like,
kind of went from like psychological piece to like Rambo action. You know what I mean? Like that last, like, oh my god, we all got to drive there.
Yeah, because I think he had to fit it in.
I mean, I still enjoyed it. Like I'm not.
Like yeah, it was definitely definitely entertaining, but the depth of everything kind of got lost as it went on. And I kind of went into it knowing that it wasn't going to be so groundbreaking. So it was still a very enjoyable book that I thought.
Was this your first time reading it?
What's up?
Was this your first time reading it?
No, I read that.
Yeah, read that too. It's my third.
Okay.
Yeah, second time through. All right.
The way you phrased that made it sound like it was your first time reading it. So I was surprised.
What I was saying is that like going into it, I didn't think that it was going to be so elaborate. I kind of went into it just expecting a regular Batman, like a Bat book, and that's kind of what I got out of it. It wasn't like I didn't feel like I was reading a Frank Miller. I didn't feel like I was reading especially a Snyder. Like for me, this was a modern day take on a different Bat universe.
Well, I'll tell you what, that guy Snyder can't end anything. Put it out there.
And that's why he has a job, because he knows that.
He doesn't end
keep it
anything.
going. Oh, I think I sent a text to one, probably Justin and Eric, where I was talking about Justice League, and I was like,
thank you.
Yeah, sorry, Nick.
I feel
but where I
in.
read like 14 issues of a Justice League arc, and then it was like didn't end because it's part of some other thing.
It's like a 70-issue arc.
Later.
So I abandoned Justice League after issue 9.
I'm about to get them. They're on sale for Memorial Day digitally, like $5 a graphic novel.
Yeah, it's not a horrible series. It's got some stuff in there.
Oh no, I'm sure it's wonderful. It's just I don't have the fucking patience for it.
Like Court of Owls, you could have ended that in like 10 issues, and we still don't know who they are. We still don't know who the Court of Owls are.
And I love Snyder. He does some really good writing. It just he leaves a lot of
We
stuff
don't know
open
who
ended.
the Court of Owls are. It's been 5 years.
All right. Yeah.
That's it. Next time we're doing Last Night on Earth.
Yeah. There we go.
There's going to be no chainsaw. He's not going to ride a motorcycle like all these pictures I'm seeing on Instagram. It's going to be fake.
Isn't the
You're gonna put
chainsaw Wonder
Sandman
Woman's?
No, you know what? I'm done.
The chainsaw is for Wonder Woman, isn't it?
Yeah, I thought you had
Whatever, Eric.
Just saying.
What if it- I have a question though. If there's like one panel where he's like riding a motorcycle with the chainsaw to go like trim his hedges, would you be okay with that?
Dude, that thing was a fraud. Which is actually, I had my own little thing I wanted to talk about. I came into this book with no expectations because, like I said about an hour ago, Metal was so hyped. And this was kind of like, it was like a low budget movie that kind of hit, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean,
I think it blew Metal out of the water.
it was hyped enough that I went out and got my
I was there with you. You bought that after the hype happened.
I don't know.
Spoiler alert.
I have it too. I have the same thing.
We'll look it up when it came out.
I seem to remember being the only one who chased Sean Gordon Murphy down at Comic-Con like the week after the first issue came out. I was like, "What's
That's
up,
right.
dude?" And all the rest of you were like, "Oh, whatever."
Hey, I got him. The same.
Hey, you know what? We all have our moments. I tried to do Jonathan Glapian's tax return, and his wife was like, no.
But Eric got a really cool piece from Glapian with the seal and everything, and a pretty good
yeah.
deal, I thought.
Yeah.
They were really cool people.
Yeah.
All right. Did not work on this book, though, so moving along. Excuse me, verklempt. Hold on. All right,
And
so
while he like swallows, I love Snyder. Just Metal stunk.
Oh, I don't think I think we all agree we love Snyder.
Scott will be very sad when he watches this and hears that.
Yeah. He's like apparently a neighbor of Justin's. No.
Yeah, hopefully he doesn't
actually
sit
lives
right
downstairs.
below on us.
No, Scott, don't come up.
You don't want to
Talking
see
shit
this.
about you.
All right, guys. So let's move on. How did we feel about the ending? And how might you have changed it, or would you have changed anything? You know what? I feel like it kind of ended on a cliffhanger. Ended with like a lot of bad stuff. And it ends with Batman wanting to identify himself. I mean, I don't know.
Well, I mean,
Didn't love it. Go ahead, Jesse. Yeah.
I think he left it on a cliffhanger on purpose. It was to leave that avenue open so that way he kind of could retell or kind of expand on his story later on, which, as we know, he has been able to.
Yeah.
So I think that the story in itself was good for what it was. Would I have wanted more? Yes. Am I happy with what I got? Yes. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I really can't complain.
Yeah. You know, if Sean Gordon Murphy was banking on himself, he definitely did. He shows
And he won.
that in the end. Yeah.
Yeah. He gave an ending to this, which was very much like there's going to be a part 2, and they gave him a part 2, and probably a part 3. So good for him.
There you go.
Yeah, I think like the biggest thing with the ending is just what I said before is that like it takes it. It's one of those very big turns that suddenly it takes it away from being a Joker book and makes it a Harley book.
Yeah.
And because of that, you know, it upends a lot of the things I was originally thinking about Jack in there, but for better or for worse. But it does make her such a far more engaging character in hindsight. And then leapfrogging into the next book, it makes sense when she has such a pivotal role moving forward in the story. So, spoiler.
Nick, you got anything to add?
I would say I thought it would have been cool if maybe Jack would have won and kept him going.
Right. Yeah.
In a way, he does
does,
though,
yeah.
right? Because Bruce is still compelled to out himself, so Jack basically gets what he wanted.
No, I meant like the dynamic in part 2. I would have enjoyed it, like Jack and Batman.
Working together.
Like the whole like him going back was just I don't know. Like I would have enjoyed. I liked it more when he was sane,
Mm-hmm.
where he like beat Batman. But
Oh, you mean
Yeah.
Jack? If Jack won in terms of the battle between Jack and Joker?
yeah, that's
Gotcha.
what
Sorry,
my
I think that
apologies.
between Jack and Batman. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what? Like, as redundant as it has been, like, that is the basis of a Batman story. Like, that is where all the tension lies. Is that, like, the Joker is the absolute nemesis to Batman, and without them together, it's like, how do you compare other villains to Batman? That would be like Tom and Jerry all of a sudden like sitting down and like sharing a block of cheese, or the Roadrunner and like Wile E. Coyote being
Well, that's
Fair
last
enough,
night.
but that
That's
would've
the
been
last night, though.
groundbreaking.
That's what Snyder did.
well,
He literally turned Joker into a Robin.
well, yes.
So
Which kind of good segue brings us to my next question. Does the Joker want to be Batman's Robin?
There you go.
Nick.
Yes, he says it.
yeah, he does say it.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
That's all I got.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, even if we
Asked
look
and
at
answered.
even if we look at Snyder's Last Night on Earth, the sentiment in that book is also Joker wants to be a Robin.
Oh yeah, of course.
So, last question of the night
Oh,
Are you drunk?
was
A little bit.
second to last question of the night. Was The White Knight satisfying to read? Why or why not? Justin?
Eric.
All right, Eric.
Yeah. I mean, it's always fun to see people try and take on this story. And again, if nothing else, I think his art is beautiful. I would read that book if it had no words, regardless. And again, like I think he does a great job of setting the stage for a larger story, and I think he's growing as he moves through this story and coming into his own. So yeah, I think if you had to like put a scale 1 to 10 on it, I'd probably give it like an 8. It's definitely like it's worth your time.
Yeah.
It's not gonna knock your socks off or change the way you view this world or anything, but it's a solid story.
Yeah. Excuse me. Anybody want to take it from there?
Yeah,
I enjoyed it. And again, I had low expectations, and I enjoyed it.
Justin?
It was a refreshing take on a Batman story. I mean, the diversity of what you saw from the Joker was kind of relieving in a sense, where it was kind of like, all right, maybe he's not that bad after all. And you saw a deeper look into what Batman's psyche was. Is he crazy? Is he not? Is he justified? Is he not? So, I mean, at the end of the day, like Eric said, the artwork is amazing. The storyline was good. It was a good Batman story. So, yes, I would highly recommend it. It's definitely something that I have on my shelf, and it's definitely something that someone that's just kind of or has been reading Batman for years to kind of get used to it, because it's cool. It was a cool story to have.
Yeah. My overall opinion is, oh heck yeah, it was satisfying to read. You got Batman versus the Joker, but told in a new and exciting way, and you got Harley Quinn being that catalyst. Like, yeah, read it. It's a good story.
Heck yeah.
And let me tell you something. You're going to be rooting for Jack. I was actually rooting for Jack to win.
I love Jack.
Not that Jack. I can't
You don't
spell
know
that
Jack.
Jack. No, I think that was another one of my favorite parts. He had me rooting for Jack to beat Joker.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what draws you in, is that you finally you've got I don't want to say
Humanized?
villain, but you got an antagonist who makes you root for him, makes you root for the other guy.
It's one of the rare times that the Joker is actually human.
Right?
Yeah.
That's it.
Boom. End it. Stopping recording now. Thank you, fam, for joining us on this issue or this series or this episode, whatever you want to call it, of
Next
comics and cocktails. Next
Next week?
Well, this is going to be broken up into like 3 weeks. I don't know how many hours we've been
Well,
talking.
we got to cut some topics.
I see the sun coming up.
It's Tuesday.
Yeah.
Jesus.
But we look forward to the next time you join us. Thank you very much. Thanks for being here. Say bye, everybody.
Take it easy.
Bye, everybody.
All right. Which brings me to my final question, guys. Cheers to everybody. We're still here. We're still. Your cup's empty.
I got a little residue in here. I got a little.
Yeah.
Get some backwash.
We're still here.
Comics and Cocktails team activate.
I came prepared for the long haul, guys.
Shape of urine.
Right?
That's how we gotta end it. We talked about this.
All right. Last question. Was the last night satisfying to read? Why?
White Knight.
Why not? What did I say?
Last night.
Edit part. All right,
No,
guys.
that's the blooper. Well, we got plenty of bloopers.
Brings us to the
We have
last
like
question.
45 minutes of bloopers. It's like 15 minutes of good material here.
Yeah.
This is the Snyder cut. This is the Snyder cut.
Snyder.
Oh, it's coming. I heard it's coming on HBO Max.
It is. And if you're subscribed to HBO, you get
You
it.
know what? I'm gonna just put this out there too before Will gets going. Scott Snyder, what have you done besides 300?
Is that an actual question or?
Yes, nothing. He's done nothing. A dog. Crazy.
Did you mean Zack Snyder? Because you said Scott Snyder.
I heard Scott Snyder, but I was like,
Yeah.
man, I just heard it. But
You might want to restate that for the blooper reel because you said Scott
take
Snyder.
two.
Zack Snyder.
Zack Snyder, what have you done besides 300? Nothing!
Is that an actual question?
No, it was rhetorical. Eric.
I thought you were asking Scott Snyder.
There we go.
I'm sure
Eric.
Scott Snyder would agree. He wouldn't say it, but he would agree.
What would D. Snyder say?
Doesn't matter.
He's a nice guy, actually. He lives in Justin's neck of the woods, too. Or at least he used to.
Justin
He
just
lives
lives
up
next to
there.
everybody.
Zach!
Yeah.
You're unusual.
All right, guys. Which